Simon!
Hey, hey.
I think this is episode 22.
Yeah, we're a young adult now.
I know.
Out of our teens.
We've graduated.
Yeah, we have.
Oh, how are you? How are you?
Yeah, I am not bad. You know,
the most British answer.
I'm not ecstatic, nor am I depressed. I'm just floating in the middle. Yeah, so I'm okay. What about you?
Yeah, I'm good. For the most part, I'm good. I've got a new family member.
Yes. You know what? Okay, sorry, I have to pause you there because my mum, I was speaking to her on like video call and she was like, hasn't Scarlett got a new nephew? And I was like, no, she's got one, but the other one's like going to turn up any minute now. She's like, you sure it hasn't turned up yet? I was like, no, but any minute now, yeah. And then, so, yeah, my mum knew before I did.
Oh, she must have seen something on like social media.
Yeah, that's what she says.
Yeah, my sister-in-law had a baby last week, and so my nephew is now a week and 1 day old. Yeah,
all 10 fingers and 10 toes, and everything.
Yeah, looking like a stud as well. So yeah, that's kept me on a little cloud nine and a little up. Yeah.
Cool. What have you been doing other than baby?
Wow,
gushing over baby pictures?
Been doing a lot of walking. It's kind of
that's all we're allowed to do.
That's all we're allowed to do. Yeah, I've been like doing some nice like weekend walks with my mum in Bushy Park and Hampton Court. Which
I need something
really nice.
Like that.
And we've been quite lucky. We've had like good weather intervals to do it, but planning Christmas really. Trying to get festive. I decorated my room very subtly. It's not.
Isn't it wild how everyone has just started?
Planning
for Christmas super early now. I've seen people with decorations up.
Oh yeah, completely up. And also like literally a year ago, there was people would have been like hated on social media because it's too early. But we just need the spirit.
We need this year to be over, that we're like rushing forward. And I think normally every year we're like, in October, we're like, can't believe the supermarket's trying to sell me Christmas stuff. And now it's like, everyone's just like accepting it and being like, this is what we need.
Yeah, exactly. How about you? What have you been up to?
Of course, I watched The Crown.
Oh yes, I haven't finished it, so no spoilers, even though it's based on a true story.
Yeah, it's like, where have you been for the past 20 years? But yeah, so watch that. It's good. It is good, and I think they've taken more of like a cinematic approach. I think maybe if like the budget is getting bigger, or they just feel like they can get away with more, I'm not sure, but it's still a really good story. And then literally up until from the time I finished The Crown to now, I've just been watching like all royalty related videos on YouTube. Like, I'm obsessed now.
I got in a spiral after my Diana documentaries a few weeks ago of like, then also obviously watching The Crown as soon as it came out. But I'm like, I think I'm halfway through maybe. Okay. But then like referencing how accurate some of the stuff was, because obviously there's been some controversy about it being a one-sided tale or not factual. But like, of course it's not factual. Like,
not all the way factual,
not every conversation is necessarily a conversation had. We know that.
Yeah.
But like,
I don't think it's one-sided at all, really.
To be honest, like they both weren't happy. They both did wrong, at times. And like, don't marry someone if you also know that they're in love with someone else.
I don't think she knew. She didn't know.
I think she did. Because she she saw the bracelet.
No, but that was after.
Well, she was in too deep. Like, they were engaged and it was like just before the wedding.
Yeah, exactly.
They were in too deep.
I saw on YouTube that she had gone to, I think he had like a croquet or polo. He had a polo event that he was playing at. And she was stood next to Camilla, chatting and stuff, not realising this whole time Camilla's been having an affair with him. So I don't think she really knew. And then it's like, how can you back out of a royal wedding like the day
I
before?
know, like the joke is like the tea towels were made, the mugs were done, like
the plates were glazed.
Yeah.
Good story though. Good. And the way it ends, there's going to be a 5th series. That's not a spoiler.
Well, because I know they've tried to imply that they're not going to come up to modern day. I think
that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, they can't not address a few problematic things.
I think they're just going to do. I think they're really going to do like the divorce. They're going to do Diana's death, and then they'll do the aftermath of how the royals were seen as like plotting her death almost.
I imagine it will end with her death and a little bit of the aftermath, but then I think they have to respect as well that like William and Harry are actually alive.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to come too into the modern day because I think it ruins the storytelling as well. I think like the distance that we have with, in terms of time allows us to just sit and enjoy the drama of it. If they come to like Meghan Markle, there's too much opinion surrounding it and there's too much debate, and you just want people to like appreciate your work for what it is and not be like gossiping about whether Meghan Markle's like a gold digger and all this stuff. But it's good. Love it.
Yeah, it is good. So what is your fashion story this week?
So my fashion story is it's about Gucci Fest.
My fashion story.
Stop! Really? This is the second time we've done this. Okay. This works fine because we can both talk about it, and I also have like this thought that I would probably like us to delve more into in one of our brand episodes that we're planning to do. Gucci Fest, from the 16th of November to the 22nd of November. Gucci's just had this like they've been putting out all these like dramatic videos, kind of storied dramas centered around fashion, very like indie filmish, very like cool kids watch these types of movies, and then they've been accompanied by conversations and discussion, and it's been like this week-long thing that they've put out. And I was watching one of them, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't really get it. I don't really get it, but that's okay. Like maybe it's just not for me. But it's really made me think that I think Gucci is doing something really interesting in that this is a theory I have, they're moving towards being more like a media company. Like they have such a clear vision for who they are, and it's so unique that they are using not only just like they have a podcast and then they have this Gucci Fest where they have like these films essentially, but it's accompanied by work of different graphic artists, and then they are championing like climate change and organizations which work to push that conversation forward. And they're just doing a whole 360 marketing thing like no one else is doing at the moment, I think. And that's just what I thought is really interesting about Gucci Fest. What were you going to say about it?
Well, it's kind of, I guess, there's a bigger discussion that they're also almost implying that Gucci want to kind of move away from old school shows, and it's how it sees its future. Is showing us their new styles in these videos or in these much more modern media platform friendly ways. And it's just quite interesting because
essentially this was their spring summer 2021, wasn't it?
I think that's what I understand it to be. And obviously like it was, I think, fronted up one of the videos, like Billie Eilish literally dropped a song like the day before, and then has like this Gucci Fest sort of style video. And I think it's almost it's reacting to the fact that it's such a popular brand with young people right now. Like it is just like, it's had a real moment, and we were saying it could have been on its way out, but maybe this is a way of it like trying to stay relevant for even longer.
I don't think it's on its way out. I think that there's probably
just the hype.
Yeah, the hype, exactly. I think they're probably experiencing a decline in sales, but again, I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think that it's settling, like its sales are settling.
Yeah, the hype is dying down a little.
Yeah, exactly. And you said it's really popular with younger kind of entry people who are beginning to get into luxury fashion, and younger people were buying into Gucci, like say from like 5 years ago. And they recognize that. But I think what's so interesting about Gucci is its aesthetic is this 70s dress up box, vintage fashion, mix and match everything. It doesn't matter. It's almost like you're pulling things from your grandma's wardrobe, you're pulling things from your parents' wardrobe, and you're just wearing it in a very like young, carefree sort of way. And in their marketing, although they realize that young people buy into it, in their marketing, they have really old models. They're people in like their 60s and 70s. And like, it's not like where a lot of brands traditionally have, they champion youth culture in a way where being and looking younger is the ideal. And so they only have models who are like 17 years old in their campaign. Gucci's like, it's whatever you want it to be. It's for any age, it's for any style, it's for any mismatched print pattern that you want. And they're just running with this like 70s aesthetic, and it seems to be working for them. But yeah, I think this is something that we could probably like discuss in depth. But yeah, Gucci first.
Yeah, it's super cool. I think it's really interesting. And yeah, they're moving in very interesting, like cool directions.
And also a point you made about it being their way of moving away from like the traditional structure of fashion shows and seasons, because at the beginning of this whole coronavirus thing, there were lots of, well, not lots, but there were prominent brands that were coming out saying that we are moving away from showing in the way that we used to. And I wonder how many of those actually stick to that. And if like when everything returns to normal, they feel the pressure of like returning back to the old structure and calendar of fashion weeks. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's definitely what Gucci's doing. And they're just like creating a whole buzz around they are like, Gucci Fest is their fashion week, and they're making a week of it, quite literally. Yeah. Yeah.
And also like, it's very clever to kind of do it around a time where it's not fashion week and we're not flooded with loads of different brands. Like it's having its real moment. And yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
We interrupt this broadcast to remind you, go follow us on Instagram, Style Over Substance Pod. Shoot us an email, styleoversubstancepeak@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube, find us on Twitter. We've got all the links on our Instagram. You know what to do. So take it away, Mim.
Oh, for our main topic.
Our main topic?
Yeah. So normally we do like a story time, and then we do a kind of macro look at issues and topics that we find interesting in the fashion industry. we've kind of had a discussion that for episodes 20 to 30 at least, we would do like a brand focus like we did last week with what did we do it with?
Bottega.
Yeah, it was Bottega. Sorry, Bound Man like just jumped into my head, so I got confused. And like normal, we're going to continue with like a broader look at the fashion industry and taking a particular topic. And then next week, we'll probably return to a brand focused episode because we thought that was really cool. And there's definitely a lot to say about brands individually. But yeah, so this week we've decided to talk about pricing in luxury fashion and price structures. And I mean, I think it's really important to like deep dive into this because for many people, luxury equals expensive, and that's the end all and be all of the industry. But there's more to it, and there's more theory and reasoning and advantages and how people and how brands like mess around with their pricing. But yeah, what are your first thoughts?
Yeah, so that's definitely true. Like there's reasons that are very like logistical in terms of raw materials being more expensive and stuff like that. But there's also kind of marketing reasons why. So I don't know if it's worth sort of starting just with more the logistics side of things and how brands justify their costs. So we're talking luxury market. We're talking all the brands that we normally talk about. Like we've mentioned before, even it's down to like, it's from the box that your item comes in to the experience you have in the store. So like a Chanel employee should definitely be being paid more than a Topshop employee.
Yeah, for sure. They are. And they have like sales targets, which bring them bonuses.
And they probably have like some serious qualifications. Like it's a real sort of skill. They'll have had like some serious sort of stuff on their CV, I'm sure.
Yeah, like you've mentioned before that to get into luxury, you need to get a job in luxury and you need to work your way up. You need to work your way up. And once you're there, you tend to stay there.
Yeah.
And for a lot of sales associates, they have worked many other luxury retail jobs. And you have to literally qualify to be a Chanel sales associate.
Yeah, exactly. So there's all of these things in sort of like, I guess, the business plan. But like ultimately as well, you're paying for better quality. A t-shirt from Prada is going to be made of much nicer quality cotton. It should be, and it tends to be more ethically sourced. The factory is more of a sustainable factory. They pay their employees an actual wage, and down to like the thread that's being used is high quality, and all of that stuff. So you're paying for that. You're also paying for the fact that they are maybe using recyclable boxes or really luxury boxes that you can keep and reuse rather than like an ASOS bag that gets thrown away immediately. All of those things contribute to the price of a luxury brand. Yeah,
but also what's so unique to like the luxury segment of fashion and retail is that, yeah, they do use more expensive fabrics and packaging, and it's their staff are probably more expensive and all those things that kind of contribute to like their bottom line. But in terms of pricing, as you mentioned, it's so much seen as a marketing tool because the price they sell you things at does not correlate to how much it makes it, how much they pay to actually manufacture the product. There is this there's little relevance basically to the production costs or the competitors. And when we talk about like the LVs and like, I don't know, like the Cartiers and the Dior and all that stuff, they're not really looking around at their competitors and being like, well, they're selling their top bag at this price, so we got to stay in line with that. They're really kind of evaluating what are those things, those intangible qualities that make our brand that people are willing to pay for. And it's that space.
And they're going to choose us over, like they're going to choose Cartier over LV.
Yeah, exactly. And they're looking like that space between like the production costs and like how much someone's willing to pay for their brand can be massive. Because at the end of the day, if you like Chanel as you do, it doesn't matter if Dior is making a similar sort of bag for a cheaper price. You don't want it. You want the Chanel one, and you're gonna pay for the Chanel one. Yeah. So yeah,
you're paying for the heritage. You're paying for the name. Like as horrible as it almost, like, that annoys me so much, but like,
but it's true.
So important.
Yeah.
Like, why else would we walk around with someone else's logo on? Like, I'm not going to have a phone case with your initials on, but I walk around with some stranger's initials if I have a Chanel bag, you know
what? I think that's cultural as well, because I was reading some articles for this episode, and Portfolio Mag was saying that you have like these changing customer values, and in China before it was like you needed the brand logo on it. That's what people were looking for, like the logo visibility, and that was really important for them. And now people much more buy into like the quality of the product, the comfort, the style, of course. And so that's sort of because we went through logo mania recently. So it's like changing all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And also it's important to kind of address that, like, so every sort of pricing tier, ultimately it's about how much markup a product has that kind of defines it. So like the markup in Topshop, yes, they use cheaper materials and stuff like that, but it's all much more relatively smaller, the margin. Then mid-tier, yes, you're having nicer products, the markup's going to be a little bit more though to justify the price. And then the markup in luxury, like you said, like it doesn't cost Chanel over £1,000 to make their bag, and they're selling it for 5,000. It doesn't. It couples like it costs maybe a couple hundred, but like you said, there's the fact that they pay like their design team X, they pay their like marketing team X, the development team X, that like Susie in the shop has had to like jump through 10 hoops to even get the job. It's all of that stuff, that there's a tiering system, and it's just about markup as well.
Yeah, a lot of it is markup, and like with like traditional kind of pricing strategies, you have like premium is used, like premium luxury kind of pricing is used as a way to like establish the equality of your brand, and it's like it gives you like a competitive edge.
It's like synonymous with the price, isn't it? So like, you don't even question it. If you're gonna buy a bag from Fendi, you assume the quality's great.
Exactly. You assume certain things about it because of the price. You also have things like, I was just reading up, it was like penetration, and it's like the price is artificially set low so that they can get into that certain market and like clean up and like take a bigger chunk of the pie, basically. So they'll make things cheap, like what Amazon does with their stuff, essentially. And then obviously you have things like Primark, which is like economy. It's like really slim margins. They don't care. It's super cheap. Like marketing they don't invest in marketing. They don't invest in advertising and things like that. And then there's one that was really interesting. It's called skimming. And it basically is like you set the price high when you have like no competition, so you can make as much money as you want. And then once competition starts to enter in like the space that you're in, you'll lower your price to kind of be more in line and more competitive with other brands. But luxury fashion just really does away with a lot of these, as you've said. It's simply about setting that precedent of what you're going to expect when you buy from them. And that's what pricing does.
Yeah. And like, that's why I think it's so hard becoming a new luxury brand, because I do think that only time proves your luxury worth. You know, like, yes, a brand could have an incredible design of a pair of shoes that we all want and all of that stuff, but if nobody sort of has heard of them, why are you paying £700 for a pair of shoes? Whereas people drop that on Louboutins every single day. And it's because there's a heritage. We know that it's quality, or we assume, again, because of the price and the prestige, the history, like all these fashion houses, like there's just so much that's gone on before that you just don't even question it. And with newer brands, I think you do.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I do think it is really tough to almost justify really, really expensive products.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting because it's not impossible. No. And I would be interested to know that how some brands actually pull it off. And you've mentioned Christian Louboutin. They've only been around for about, 25, 26 years?
Yeah, I think it's around it's the 30 mark. Like,
yeah, they were around from the early 20s. Early 20s, the early 1990s. And when you look at their pricing for their shoes, it's comparable to the Louis Vuittons, which have been, as a brand, not as a shoemaker, but as a company in general, has been around from like the 1800s. And they were like royally appointed to make trunks and luggage and all that. Completely different history, but somehow you have brands managing to pull it off. So yeah,
I think it has to stem from, and I think it's the root of all luxury fashion. And we've mentioned before, like, it's been dropped a little over time just because money making gets in the way. But it has to start from just artisan, like, making the best product possible. So I dare say that Louboutin like studied like just shoemaking and is so well versed on that, and studied maybe like women's feet, their arches, like whatever. I mean, supposedly his shoes are ridiculously uncomfortable, so maybe he didn't.
He does say that he doesn't care about comfort. It's simply about the design. In that sense alone, shoe design is an art form, whether it's comfortable or not. So
so I think it does start from wanting to create the most beautiful shoe in the world, or like the most luxurious, or using the nicest like patent leather and all of that stuff. And, you know, the red sole of his shoes dates back to like the French royalty. They used to paint their soles red. So there's like this, he's like using this sort of luxury sort of like connotation.
Yeah, and storyline.
But like, I think it has to start from there. But yeah, it's really interesting that like you can just come in at like an established brand's like price point without like a qualm, and just crack on with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think following on from that, another way is introducing the idea of exclusivity. Because while, you know, design and fashion is like, it's an emotional thing in the sense that you like the style of it or you don't. And as I mentioned before, you're going to buy into a brand because that is the look that you want. Even if you can get something similar somewhere else for cheaper, it's really not the same thing. No. And so like, you're driven by your emotional desire to buy that. And what's interesting is like, I don't know, like human behavior, as you mentioned, like higher price, we assume things about the value of the product, but also it's like the higher price does a lot to increase the demand of the product.
Yeah.
Because it's like we're part of an exclusive club. And many times, as we've mentioned this on previous podcasts, lowering the price of luxury goods can damage your brand because it's no longer desirable. Sometimes it's a catch-22. If you start out and you're too expensive, people might not want to buy into you. But then if you come in just like, don't give a shit, really high price, the demand will come because people are looking at you like, whoa, there's only 10 of those available. Yeah. And that's why they're £500 a piece. And I want to get my hands on them.
And there's always those sort of like, and I don't mean this badly, like, but those money snobs who are like, oh, like, I can buy this because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
And
it's a flex.
Like, I'm going to go for like, I'm not going to buy that like entry level. I'm going to flex the fact that I can drop that on the Croc Kelly bag or the Croc Birkin and that kind of a thing. It's a real, like, it's a mind game. Like, some people are really on that. And that's almost what feeds this luxury industry are those sorts of people who, like, need that latest thing for status and stuff like that. And speaking of like status, one of the articles I was reading was talking about like, so the brand Rolex, if someone's got a Rolex on their wrist, you just assume it's one of the best watches out there. Well, wow. maybe let me
don't get me wrong, I love a Rolex.
That it might not be the best watch out there, but you know its quality, you know its value. Like, not obviously like value as in cheap, but like, you know, it's a high priced product.
Yeah, and it's got good resale value and things like that.
And it's something that you invest in, and blah 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 blah. It might not be as great as like a Swiss-made Patek Philippe or something like that. But like, it's got a connotation, and I automatically, and I have done this multiple times, you see a Rolex on somebody's wrist, you instantly know that they are like a high earner. You instantly know that they are a certain like individual, that they're either like quite like good at their job, or they're like a hard worker. It gives you like an insight into somebody. We do make assumptions about people dressed in a particular way, and that is why we buy expensive things. It's like you start earning more money and you feel like you've graduated into the next level, and you start buying into that higher level to outwardly project how you feel about yourself as a person, or you aspire to be as a person. Exactly. So like, then there's somebody who's aspiring to buy a Rolex, so they can project that even if that's not their lifestyle. Because I tell you now, I know people who like, they're obviously from like either a wealthy family or like previously, this is actually shocking, but like at one of my old jobs, like the boss bought her like assistant Rolex. That's like as her like bonus kind of a thing, and it was sort of like, then rather than her having to pay like tax on her bonus or something like that,
it was a gift. It
was a gift, kind of a thing. But this girl actually, like, she earned all right and she earned well, but like the what's it called when you get something like serviced, to service a Rolex, like she couldn't really like afford it properly. So like, there are people who have a Rolex that like don't have the lifestyle you do conjure up with it.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, it's the same with like all these young kids who save up for like all these designer bags. They're not walking around like as a young millionaire, but like, you do associate all of this stuff.
It is crazy in that sense. I did want to bring up the big event of price increases.
Yes.
Because we have experienced some price increases this year, and we've touched on it, saying that, like, you know, price increases for luxury items, like, it's not a big deal. If you don't want to buy it, you're not subjected to have to buy it. It's not like food.
And like, to point out, it is something that happens every year. So this year is not alone. I think the hike was a little bit maybe more this year, but on average, luxury brands, it's not all products, but sort of I guess the most coveted, it tends to be on leather goods that I'm aware of. They get hiked up at about 5 to 7% every year, which is actually quite a lot. If you think about it, like, there's no better time to buy a Chanel bag than right now, because it's going to go up next year.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's the case every year, basically. Yeah.
And so actually, what a clever marketing tool.
Exactly. I mean, that's why, you know what, I often think to myself, for example, Zara, when I go on Zara and I see something I like, I am going to be like, okay, I'm going to buy it. Yeah. I'm not going to think too long and hard about it, because I know they don't have discounts very often. They probably do the summer and winter, and that is it. They don't do these Black Friday random promotions. They don't do discount codes and all of that. So I know, as a consumer, I either buy it at the price it is or I miss out, you know?
And that's also like Zara's ammo, is you see it and the next time you look for it will be gone. So you need to snap it up now.
Yeah, exactly. And so Chanel, who's notorious for, you know, you don't find their stuff on third-party websites. They very much control the sale of their goods. It's because that is a way they control the price. And, you know, if you go into Chanel, you're not going to be asking when's their sale on.
Yeah.
Whereas with YSL, you know that you can wait, and you can get it on Farfetch at a discount, 20% off or something. Do you know what I mean? So
and I think Saint Laurent has recently, like, done a very big transition to become more of that brand. I think it's identified its like place, and it's just like, it knows that's where it's at.
And I think it's really interesting, kind of a point that I don't know why I'd never considered it, or it never really sprung to mind when we last had this discussion about price increases. But a really important reason why brands increase price, and I think this is why they've done it this year to such an extent, is the depreciation of their local currency. So in 2015, when the euro wasn't doing so well, Chanel hiked up their prices, because what brands identify is that, for example, China, massive growing market for luxury goods, people come over to Europe to kind of buy these designer luxury goods. And if they know that their currency comparatively is stronger against the euro or the pound, they're going to buy more, and they might go back to their country and sell on these pieces, or they just might buy more in general. And to keep the supposed value of the goods that Chanel was selling, if they realize that it's actually cheaper now to buy a bag than it was last year, and that is not our MO, things need to be increasingly more expensive, we're going to have to hike up our price to a significant value to make sure that it stays at that top end of the luxury range. And so, like, currency depreciation is such a big reason why year on year we get these price increases. And then when we talk about coronavirus, you know, we thought the world was going to end economically.
I wasn't sure if you were even going to add economically.
I mean, a bit of both. But yeah, like, there was so much talk about markets crashing, and even from last year we were talking about, oh, it's coming up to 10 years since our last crash and things like that. It's ready to blow. And there was all that, and Brexit as well. So we talk about the depreciation of the pound and the euro and things like that. So these brands being like, we're going to increase our price by like 20%, we saw in some cases, is a reaction to what they're thinking is ahead, you know? Yeah, so that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. And also because, like, for instance, like you said, if a currency suddenly is going to really benefit from the euro not doing well, that's not correct then to like allow that currency to have a Chanel bag or a Louis Vuitton or whatever it is for much cheaper. You know, like that can't happen, because there can't suddenly almost be like this sale for a nation or a currency.
Yeah. So it can't be like high in some places, low in some place. Got to be like all in the same. But with another thing for Chanel is, well, I use Chanel as an example because it's an obvious example, but luxury was really late to the online sphere. And
it's still not very present.
And that has a lot to do with price as well, because if we think about it, it was seen to affect a brand's ability to control price, but also to affect how they presented their product. And now we see on Google, like if you want a Balenciaga City bag, you can Google it, and then Google will tell you all the places you can buy it and all the prices.
Who's cheapest, yeah.
And who's cheapest. And we have like, you know, I love a Google extension, which gives me like coupon codes. You can just like go on a website and say, is there anything I can apply here to give me 10-20% off or whatever, free shipping or whatever it might be. And so the transparency of price has increased so much that we're now talking about, is buying a Chanel worth it? And what's your thoughts on like online and luxury fashion? And
see, I think it's a difficult thing that you'd have to have stupid money to buy a £5,000 handbag having never seen it. So like, I think the only way you would buy the likes of a Dior lady bag online or anything like that is if you've been into a store, you've seen it, and you go away and think about it and you buy it online. But actually, the whole thing about these brands is that most people want the experience. And I tell you now, if I save all my pretty pennies and can afford a bag from Chanel, I want to walk in that shop and buy it.
Yeah.
And I think they know that that's kind of the case. There's a Chanel experience. You want to walk out of the bag with the shopping bag, like you just bought a Chanel. And it's the same with all of them. I'm just using Chanel because that would be like my pinnacle.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a lot to do with that. So the only thing you can buy on Chanel's website is sunglasses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of crazy. But also, I think it just probably means that there's also not the fear of, it's very hard to post a handbag. I mean, you know how difficult it is working for an online retailer. If your Chanel turned up with a scratch, that probably hasn't been posted with a scratch. It's happened in transit. I think it avoids all of that. And also just controls how the experiences, the luxury experiences. So basically, like, I think what's so important to these luxury brands is that store experience. And like, I think even if you've got good money, you want that experience, and there's some sort of a ritual of going into a shop, someone being really polite, taking time with you, calling you ma'am, they offer you a drink, you know, like they properly do this whole like service that I think an online experience would be really difficult for them to emulate that. And I think that's not something they're after. Plus, I guess one of the things as well is that like places like Chanel and for sure Hermes and Dior and stuff like that, like there's almost this like hunt for bags. So if there's an online space, I think it ruins that. So like, say there's a seasonal color, there's a beautiful like red flap bag that's like, it doesn't have it in Selfridges, it doesn't have it in the New Bond Street store, but you can get it at Harrods. Or like, you know, there's this buzz that like YouTubers even that I follow who buy sort of like designer bags, like they're waiting or they've called around shops and they've found the one place that still has it. Or like there's this buzz, or like some of them even might travel to like Manchester if like there's a store there like that has it. You know, like there's this real like need and demand that I think online you can't replicate that. It's either just going to sell out really quickly, which is annoying.
Yeah, I completely agree. In terms of basically the store experience is like the justification for its price. And if you are a luxury buyer, as you said, you do hunt around for that color in that fabric, in that hardware color, and you know, all of that.
Yeah.
And it is about also that experience, because it's like, it's a collector's piece, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that is part of why you buy something expensive. It's almost like gonna be an antique in a few years, and it's something you're gonna want to cherish. And in that thought of like justification for the price, if people are buying all these items online so easily, which for the most part, there's a lot of fashion brands that you can actually buy their stuff online.
Net-a-Porter's got such a huge selection of incredible luxury brands.
Exactly. But for those like, you know, like the Hermes's,
the top dogs.
The ones who are being really particular with how they sell and where they sell, I think it's, if you're able to buy their stuff online easily, next day shipping, no problem, then why do they need these really expensive flagship stores in the most expensive cities in the world if you're not going to walk in there? Why do they need sales associates to the extent they have now? Of course, they're still going to have stores, and pay them a commission, because you can make some good money as a sales associate for like Dior and all that.
Yeah.
Why are they going to have both? Why invest on their online platform and their logistics for e-commerce and all of that when they're paying $5 million for their flagship in New Bond Street? Like it kind of I don't know, it's like they don't need both. They can stick to the model they already have sort of attitude.
For sure. And I think it's really difficult, and actually like so many brands do successfully do it on like Net-a-Porter, Farfetch, on their own websites. Like I'm pretty sure that like Gucci and Louis Vuitton sell on their websites. And I don't know sort of how they do it, but there is something about going into a store and like when I used to do all my market research trips, there's something about a very few brands like in a Chanel store, and I actually like in some Louis Vuittons, like it's kind of like you get almost like a little appointment with a sales associate. So you walk in, and if you want to look at a particular bag, your name gets put on a list, and you have like a one-on-one like person helping you.
It's a bit intense.
Yeah, but like I mean, this is like height of like middle of the day tourist central, wealthy people shopping who want to go in like the Louis Vuitton flagship store, but they also, because they want to buy their bag from that flagship store.
But it also means that you don't get one thing high prices do, kind of with the experience you're describing, is that you don't get people who are going to mess you about. It's like, you're going to buy or you're not.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, there's a real kind of like special sort of, not many people in the store in that respect, because you kind of get told to come back, or like people wait at the side to be like seen. It's not crowded, you have time to think, you know, it's a big purchase, all of that stuff. it's really unique and it's really exclusive. And going back to like the justification of hiking up their prices every year, it's never quite like, it's always more than the national sort of inflation or the global inflation, or however you want to measure it. It's always more than that. But I guess it's to kind of keep up with that, but also it's created this thing where these bags now are investments. And I think that's the most important that these kind of price hikes have managed to achieve, is that Chanel bag you bought in 2000 is actually worth so much more now. And I think there's a real skill in that like in any normal world, would I buy a bag that costs £5,000? Absolutely not. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you can justify, and like you'd hear like your dad in the back of your head just being like, that's crazy, save that money, put that as a deposit like on your house, like save that, you could get a car or like whatever with that money. But when you can be like, but dad, like it's going to go up in value, like you can justify it with like, it's an investment, I could sell it on and make more money. You're never going to sell it on, of course you're not.
Yeah, you're not.
Like I've just bought it, I'm not selling it ever. I think it's a mind game that they've really done well with, because that would be my argument to like say you're like fighting with your husband over why you're spending that much money on a bag. Like
that's something you would say.
You've got that as part of your argument, and whether like
for sure
it doesn't actually mean anything, because very rarely do people probably sell them on. But it's knowing you can.
Yeah, definitely. It is a mind game, but I think what is also interesting, and what you've actually mentioned before regarding Gucci and them recognizing that their customer base are younger people, and how there's a lot of entry level price points. Like, you know, the card, what's the first thing you think about buying when you buy into these brands? It's a card holder.
Yeah.
It's the most useless, like, I have
entry
one, but
level.
it's a pretty like basic bit of leather, isn't it? That you put cards.
It's literally like two of like, or well, maybe not two. It'll probably be like 5 very small squares.
Pieces of cut off leather.
It's not even, I think it's like 4 pieces of leather and then a bit of canvas in the middle, or like some backing, and sewn together. And like any of us could probably make one. Like.
And
very limited artisan in there,
but they're so popular. Those are the things. They probably sell, and any brand, I bet they probably sell more card holders than anything else.
Oh, completely.
But as we've seen, like in recent history, let's say, these luxury brands are investing in more areas. So it's not just about leather goods. It's like some of them are investing in hotels, like Versace Hotel, and like the Gucci like the Gucci restaurant. Where is it? Somewhere in Italy.
Oh yeah, in Florence.
In Florence, and then you have like homeware, like Versace.
Yeah, they sell like so many plates and all that.
All their plates and their bathrobes and all that stuff. They do so well, and then you've got like, you know, Hermes, they have their throws, and they have
how many cushions do you see on Instagram at the moment that are Hermes and the throws?
Exactly. Like they're expanding into like departments and ranges that it's not for Joe Blogs, it's for the, you know, those diehard fans or whatever.
Yeah.
And that contributes to like a wider range when it comes to price point for a brand as well. Which I think is really interesting.
For sure. Because like, as I guess, let's take the cushion market. I don't know much about cushions personally, but like you can get a cheap cushion from H&M home. Yeah. I guess it's going to set you back maybe £3 for a cushion cover, and you might have to buy the filler. And then like you could get sort of like an Anthropology pillow that's maybe like 40 to 50 quid. And that's a lot for a pillow. Like I'd say that sounds like quite a lot for a decorative pillow. And then you've got like the likes of, if luxury fashion's doing it, I don't know what they are. I'm guessing they're going to be like £300 to £500. But
yeah,
like,
I think they'd be like £500 at least.
But like in the grand scheme of things, it's quite affordable for something from Hermes.
Yeah, I mean, Gucci have furniture, and their furniture is like for just a
I would
single chair,
love
it's
a
like
Gucci
thousands.
chair. I would
No, they're
love
beautiful.
a Gucci chair.
They're really nice. They're beautiful. But yeah, they're in the thousands as well. And if you really think about it, it's probably more, you get more use out of your chair than your, I don't know, your Gucci dress, which probably costs the same amount. I don't know. Don't quote me on prices, but yeah, that is like another thing, another way to buy into these brands, and another way for them to capture a particular segment in a new market. But I have some like interesting like statistics for you.
Hit us with the stats. Go
on. First one. So out of this was from Vogue Business, so this was a little research they did. 13 of like prominent luxury labels. So we're talking about like Dior, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Tom Ford, Balenciaga, Burberry, all of that stuff. £25,740 being the average difference between the most expensive item for a brand and their median priced women item. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's wild.
And then it says that LV actually sold the most, out of those brands, sold the most expensive product online. And they also have the highest median price out of all their stuff. While Burberry mid-tier products are the most accessible. Yeah. But it was also mentioned in this that Burberry is trying to like move into a more upmarket space. And we kind of touched on the whole like reinvention of Burberry recently. Yeah, I think that's something they need to do as like the most expensive British designer fashion house, becoming more like, I don't know, more expensive is probably in their best interest to like maintain that appreciation also, for the brand.
I think to prevent another wave of the yob, like Burberry being everywhere culture it suffered in the 90s. I think that's like, if you keep expensive, that's what comes. But also a lot that happened with that 90s yob culture, and I'm sure we'll do a Burberry episode in detail one day, but they hadn't properly trademarked their check.
Oh, really?
I think it was something like that. Oh, hence why there were lots of very like convincing market stall like stuff.
Yeah.
I think there was something to do with that. Yeah.
The final interesting piece that they came out with was the most expensive items sold on the Farfetches of the world, the Louisa V. Aromas of the world, the Net-a-Porters of the world, are on average 17% cheaper than what you find in own brand stores. Oh. So it's like, it's not that they're selling the same item for 17% cheaper. It's that the range of priced things that you find are 17% cheaper. So in other words, own stores are hanging on to their most expensive items because they want to retain that relationship with their most affluent customer.
Yeah.
You know, which is, I think, a really interesting point, and really that's kind of a way of playing both sides, being online, being wholesaled, but also trying to retain some of that prestige and that price and that margin that you want to retain as a luxury brand.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very clever tactic of, like you said, having that presence, but like not allowing them to have the good stuff. And so they still have to like come to your stores that you put good money into, if they want like the top stuff, the top of the range stuff. So the loyal customers are going there.
Yeah. That Gucci chair, they're coming to your store.
One day.
We might post some Gucci furniture just so everyone can appreciate.
One day we will be recording this podcast and I will be sat in my Gucci chair.
Yeah, with some like brocade snake embellished cushions by Gucci.
Yeah, that's it. Or my Gucci B loafers. Yes, please.
No, one day.
It'll be like 30 years.
So yeah, any last thoughts regarding pricing and how they completely manipulate us with their numbers?
I mean, I wish it wasn't so expensive, but like I do get it. I just do. But it's also one of those things, having worked inside like the biz,
it's like the machine.
and yeah, that's exactly the word I want, of like inside the machine. I'm very reluctant to ever pay full price for an item because you just know about the markups and you know all of that stuff. So I do feel very reluctant.
The markup is why you want it to begin with.